What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to review Halo Episode 3. So I want to first thank you guys for watching the first two episodes reviews. You guys are really supporting this, and I did not expect it whatsoever, so I really do want to thank you. And I'm not, by the way, purposely going into these super negative or anything. It's just how they turn out. Look, this one's actually kind of unique. Episode 3 is kind of unique because is it painfully bad like the title suggests? Yes, it is. It is painfully a horrible episode. At the same time, it has some of the best interest or some of the most interest from me into the show yet. I can, and it almost makes it worse because like I'm starting to accept this version of Chief, but the more I do that and the more I think like, all right, you know what? Because like this Pablo Schreiber, right? Like he's good as whatever they're trying to make him be in this show, okay? It's just not Master Chief. That's the thing. And I feel like it's taken a couple episodes, but now that we're here in episode 3, he is doing good. And you know, the journey he's kind of going through, fine. It's just not remotely close to what I would want from Master Chief whatsoever. And I'm not saying, by the way, I have to accept it, because I'm not going to accept it, because it's just not... It's still generic. It's still, again, this idea of a person trying to, and we called this in episode 1. It's just somebody who's got basically his emotions and his humanity turned off, and then throughout the show, he turns it back on. That's all it is. That's what this entire show is. And it's just with a disguise of him being Master Chief. That's it. So it's not, you know, like, will I accept it? Or am I starting to be like, all right, like I'm watching it and he's a fine actor and all that stuff. Like, am I starting to accept that? Yeah, but it doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it Master Chief. You know, it just makes it what it is. It was so good to hear Jen Taylor's voice. Again, though, the issue there is while her voice really... I feel like they thought, all right, well, here's the thing. Because Master Chief is going to have his helmet on for approximately 2% of the entire series, right? Because he had it on for the first episode, 45-minute mark. He took it off, and he's yet to... I believe, this entire episode, episode 3, he did not put it on one time. Episode 2, he put it on twice for maybe 30 seconds each time, all right? So in the last 2 episodes, he's had the helmet off the entire time. And I feel like they thought, all right, well, look, we can't possibly have the voice of Chief doing the voice because we have to take the mask off and he's a human and it's just not going to work. But Jen Taylor, we can have her come back because the Cortana is going to be this awkwardly stupid-looking creation, weird morphosized thing that we're going to make. It's going to look super weird. It's going to look super not, you know, just not, I don't even know what you would want to call it. It just doesn't look good. And so because of that, and because, as they say in the show, her voice is meant to be, I don't think they said soothing, but it's supposed to be like attractive, like something that's easy to listen to and kind of relatable, right? That's the point, which is, I guess that was kind of funny. And Cortana, again, like her lines are actually very good. But again, I guess I'm trying to not dance around. I'm trying to be very, very direct here. The thing that's painful is that while it's the voice of Cortana, and that's awesome. And I actually think her lines are pretty good in this episode so far, okay? Or, well, in the episode, good. We'll see where they go, you know, for the rest of the episodes. But then you're like, all right, well, now you're trying to make it Halo. I actually would have made, and, you know, it's kind of like you're caught in between two bad, like there's no easy way out of it, right? Because you're like, all right, well, you could make her voice a new voice, which would just make people more upset. It would make it even less Halo than the show already is, right? So you can go down that path. Or you can make her voice relatable and something that we've heard before in the actual Cortana, and that's great, and that'll help people like the show more. But then you start to analyze the big difference between, okay, well, this is classic Halo that we all know and love, and then here's the Halo that we're getting, right here. You know what I mean? So I feel like it almost enhances how different the show is from the games, because now we're familiar with this voice, so we're like, oh, sweet, Halo, Chief, and Cortana, and then we get this. There are some awkward scenes in this episode, some of the most awkward scenes in the entire series, the 3 episodes, some very bad dialogue, some scenes that just shouldn't necessarily be there. Kwan, I'm really, really getting mad at that character. I don't think she's a bad actress, but it's so painfully obvious you didn't need... I mean, I really don't know why you needed her. You know what I mean? What we heard about that character before the show happened was that, like, this was going to be our look at the Spartans from a human perspective. Like, what does a human view the Spartans as, right? That's what it was pitched to us. That's what it was pitched before the first episode. And, like, the premise of that was applied in the first episode. There's no doubt about it, right? We got what she thinks of Chief, what she thinks of Spartans and the UNSC and all that stuff versus the Covenant. We got that. It wasn't good, but we got it. After that, she's become a child that you need to babysit. And in this episode, she's going through, again, the very it's so freaking generic. All of, again, like what I said for Chief, yes, I'm accepting more about it, but it's so goddamn generic what his character is. Kwan, all it is, again, is this girl who's resentful because something happened to her family. How many times does that happen? Then she needs to be babysat by somebody. How many times does that happen? And now she's going through that phase where she's rebellious, right? Where she's like, I can go to Madrigal and I can take out this basically dictator there, right? Like, I can go fight. I can join my father's army. You suck. You're like a kid. You have no training. You don't know what you're doing. You can't do anything, which is proven throughout this episode, right? You still need a babysitter. And then, again, very generic, you convince him to take you because of money. You say, well, my father's rich, so he'll pay. I mean, oh my God, have we not seen this a trillion times in other things before, right? And not just that it's generic, but just that it's so stupid. This girl is going to get you killed, and then you're going to go with her because she offers you money? And she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't need to be in it. But here's the thing. She's going to Madrigal, right? The Covenant is going to go to Madrigal to get the artifact or to figure out, right, what's going on there. So you have the two parties colliding. I'm sure Chief will meet up there, and the whole thing will probably take place there. Or all three of them, those three separate groups, right? They will all meet at the same place. That's what's going to happen. And you can see it episodes away, and that's not, in my opinion, a good thing. Now, I'm trying to think. I tried to, like, remember, all right, this scene is god-awful. I tried to remember that. I think when Cortana came out with Chief to the other Spartans, and she said, hi, I'm Cortana. Like, I'm working with Chief. And Chief's like, what do you do? Like, I can see, and I do appreciate the idea of a relationship between these two and building it, and where does it start versus where is it going, and the idea of somebody who's like resentful of that person and doesn't want, or I guess person, I'm talking about Cortana in that case, right? Like Chief not wanting Cortana around, not needing her help, not wanting her help, and then them slowly, you know what I mean? Like, and it's done throughout the episode where she's supposed to be his friend, and she's working behind Halsey's back to help Chief so that they form this kind of partnership where they can trust each other. Chief can trust her, right? I get it, but it just, like, you don't necessarily need that early part. I guess, I mean, that's what they're doing, right? But I would like to get to the parts that we got in the Halo games, because that's, again, what made it so special, when the relationship is very, very good, and then it's tested through struggles and all this stuff, and then, you know, you go into Halo 4 and on, and although the stories there really break down and Chief talks much, much more, at least the relationship between those two, I mean, it's the most dynamic, you could argue, right, than any of the other games. And maybe it's a good thing or maybe it's a bad thing, but I want to get there. I want to get to the games. I don't want to, you know what I mean, where he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, deactivate or go away. Like, whatever he's saying, where it's like, you know, he can press a button. Like, he thinks he can press a button and she'll just kind of disappear. It's like, it's so dumb. It's so awkward. And maybe it's supposed to come across as awkward, but it's just so awkward. And again, those are the moments where I believe him as an actor for this character in the show when he's doing that, when he's saying, like, I don't want, or, you know, deactivate. Like, I can see it, but I do not see Chief. I could never see Chief acting any of the ways that he acts in really this entire episode, and really most of the series. He has not actually been any form of Master Chief, and I get they're doing their own thing, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Doesn't really even mean I have to accept it, and it's not good. It's not a better version. It's not even a one-to-one version. It's not even like a parallel track and it's just as good. No, it's horrible. It's awful. So, you know, the first 7 minutes was actually cool. I liked getting the flashback in this one. Again, I think this one had the most intrigue. It's still a filler episode. It still is. We got a little action, but it wasn't much. It really wasn't much at all. The first 7 minutes were good. I get the story. I get where it's going. You know, again, it's interesting to a degree what's happening and Chief remembering all this stuff, like, fine. but it was still very, very much a filler episode. And then again, having Cortana finally, well, firstly, that took forever. That's even in this episode, it took forever to actually get to Cortana. And then that look just looks so bad. It looks atrociously bad. It looks just as bad as when you first saw that picture of her in the promotional stuff, and people were like, what in God's name is that? It still looks just as bad. It does. But at least she's got the spunk. I will say, but again, like, that's not them. I'm giving them zero credit. Maybe the writing, if there was like an individual writer that only wrote for Cortana, good job, because I think they did. The writing for her, again, was pretty good in this episode, and she was fantastic. But she's just playing Cortana. That's it. She's just playing, but we don't get to visually see that. I think the best parts of the episode with Cortana and Chief is when she's not visible and she's talking, like when he's doing the search results, because he's like, if you guys didn't watch the episode, he's like searching for stuff and he's trying to do it on his own, and she's saying, well, I can help you, but she's only talking like in his head, and you don't see her, and he's like looking around, and she's like, I'm not around here, I'm like in you. And like that was cool, because that was more like, that was a lot better. So when you don't see her, which hopefully, but again, I don't know, do they want us to see her? I think so, just like they want us very painfully to see Master Chief, his face, his literal face. I don't get it. I don't understand that. I really go back, this is the final thing I'll say. People are commenting, right? A lot of you guys agree, some of you disagree, and that's totally fine. But I still just don't understand who the show is for, because the Halo diehards, there's no way at least a majority or even half and half like the show. There's absolutely no way. Maybe a couple do, but there's no way the majority of Halo fans like the show. And then if you're a new person and you've never seen Halo, there's no way you like the show either. It's impossible. There's no way. So I don't really know who this show is going towards at all. I just don't get it. I don't get it. That's it. So it was maybe the best, in a weird way. This episode was the best of the three, and also by far the worst of the three. Easily. Like, at its worst, this episode was the worst one, but at its best, it had at least the most interest. And like, when I heard Cortana's voice, I smiled. I was like, sweet. And that's the first time I've done that. Even in the fight scene in the first episode, this is the first time I did that. So I think it was at its best, this was the best episode. At its worst, it was the worst episode. And I can't wait, can't wait for next week. I'm having a lot of fun with these. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, so you know when these videos go up. I do a video every day, and obviously every Thursday you can come back for a new Halo review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys there.